Welcome to the All About Alts podcast, where we explore the world of alternative investing to help you find financial independence. Join our host, NewView Trust's president, Jason DeBono, as he covers a variety of topics with different guest speakers to discuss tax and alternative investing strategies. It is never too late to start taking control of your financial future, and we are so excited for you to be joining us for this opportunity to hear from some of the best in the business.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the All About Alts podcast. I am your host, Jason DeBono, and I am joined with an old friend, Hope Richards. Hope, how are you?
Good, Jason. How are you?
Good. Hope and I both met when we were teenagers, I think, at the time. At least it feels that way. But it's got to be getting close to almost 15 or 20 years as we both were kind of entering into this investment world. And certainly what a long way you've come since that time.
Same, Jason.
It's been a fun ride. Hope wears a few different hats. I think investor is one hat, but professionally, Hope serves two different businesses, which is really cool. She's an owner and partner of RTR Title Company, 6 offices throughout Florida, so investor-friendly title company, which we're going to talk about because that's super cool. And then Richards Law. Hope is an attorney, and so also provides legal services to investors, real estate, private lending, that sort of thing. So you're busy.
I am busy, but it's good.
Busy, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about, let's go back and maybe reminisce. We met, we were all out trying to meet investors and kind of introduce them to the services. If we go back and look, let's start with Hope the investor. What was that entry point like into the real estate investment market? You now have a significantly different perspective of real estate because you see it from so many different angles, but maybe just walk through like what caused you to kind of go to that real estate side of the equation, and specifically the real estate investment side versus maybe traditional law or staying in traditional real estate.
It was more of a personal journey for me as opposed to a business decision. I don't know if everyone realizes that about me, but I was actually a Tennessee attorney before I was a Florida attorney. And I kind of like married into it. I married a guy from law school. And I remember we were studying for the bar exam and someone said, "Hey, you shouldn't be an attorney. You should become a real estate investor." And he said yes. And I was like, "Your dad's going to kill you." And then we spent all this money on law school. And then, I was a newbie attorney. You make peanuts. And he was a newbie real estate investor, killing it. And everyone would always say, "Well, why didn't you go to law school?" I was like, "Why didn't he?" I was like, "He works half as hard as I do and makes twice as much." I was like, that's why. So it was really eye-opening to see how that played out with our different career paths. And then it went from that to owning a very large wholesale brokerage. And then from that, I remember money guys. Like back in the day, we had a lot of private money guys in town. And I remember meeting at Las Spadas with one of them. You're probably going to know who I'm talking about. And they were like, we usually know how to get our money out in the street. And they were talking to us. We had a wholesale brokerage. Those guys went from having lunch at Las Spadas, trying to figure out how to get their money out in the street, to getting huge lines of credit from Wall Street in New York. And I grew with them the whole way from doing 1 or 2 deals a month to originating, 80 million in 19 states. So I just grew with my clients, and we learned the hard way, over the course of the last 15 years. So that's how I got here, from representing mom and pops, which I still do, to hedge funds, which I still do.
Well, what a fun story. And for those that don't know, here in Central Florida, there's a cheesesteak institution in a smaller town here called Las Spadas, and it's where all the deals do get done. So
if you can get out of your car without getting shot,
that's right.
They have the best cheesesteaks.
Yeah, it's a risky proposition, but it's a good business meeting spot because it ensures that people are there for the right reasons. Nobody's going there for a free meal. So
it sure does.
So it's interesting, right? If you kind of think about it, a lot of people, and from a legal standpoint, most, and maybe I'm I'm being a little too generic here, but my experience is most attorneys kind of slowly back their way into legal representation for investors because they kind of get pulled into that. You were like the opposite. You were pulled in really into investor real estate before you were actually practicing law in it. And then you realize, wait a minute, I can actually move my law practice to support not just
Right.
me, but I can support all these other people that I was meeting. So it's such a cool story. And I think for a lot of people, they maybe underestimate good legal representation as well as being a practitioner, because those two things don't always go hand in hand.
Well, what really doesn't go hand in hand that people don't understand is there's real estate attorneys and there's title attorneys. And then in that real estate attorney world, there's investment real estate attorneys. Rarely do any of those merge into the same person. I can think in Florida, there's probably less than 5 of us that are real estate investor focused attorneys that also know title. Investor focused title. So it's a rare combo. But if you think about all of us, the ones that are the ones who do real estate deals. You can't be a good investment attorney. You can't be a good investment title company if you're not actually doing deals yourself. You don't know the pain points. You don't know how to save a deal. So it's a rare thing to find the two. And I am super thankful for how I came into it. And experienced all the different niches from, the ground up.
Well, that's invaluable. And, it is, I think for most people listening, if you've done a real estate deal as an investor, you probably had a separate real estate attorney and a separate title company. And then connected to that title company, right, is the title company's attorney. But they're unrelated. And you bring up a really good point. If things go bad in a deal, and inevitably a good real estate deal is going to have something, if not many somethings that pop up. That's what makes them good deals. Being able to kind of strategize and get your perspective both from, hey, what does it take to save the deal? Oh, by the way, is this going to get through title? And that's
Right.
the same person that can answer that question. And then, by the way, how do I, as the buyer, get protected from a legal standpoint, right? Which is kind of that third pillar. That's a pretty cool perspective for you to be able to see these transactions from.
Yeah, and it's not like title's an easy way to make a living. There's we've got probably 30 something attorneys sitting here in the office, and they go from personal injury to employment to probate, and it's always fun. Like, God, like title is such a hard way to make a dollar. I'm like, I know, but that's why I did it. Is because it's so much easier to just have title and attorney in the same shop. Because it's just a one-stop shop and you can fix it. I mean, I serve as counsel for other title companies for when, a deal comes up and it needs some help. So it's just easier, I think, for my clients, for my book of business, because I can just fix it while it's sitting here in my office anyway.
So let's talk about, the investment world. And certainly we're going to dig into the title side and the legal side, but let's talk as an investor, right? What are you seeing in the marketplace? Putting your Hope Richards, you're going to go out looking for deals today. What are you seeing in the marketplace? What's, been different over the last few months, last few years? What are you seeing out there?
It's not easy anymore. When I started, it was right there at that crash, and we were putting 3-2 block homes for $40,000 in our portfolio, and there were a bunch of them. It's just not that anymore. I mean, you can see sheds going for $300,000 right now. I'm like, yes. So what I'm seeing is, I went to a title conference recently, and everybody was freaking out because of the NAR settlement and how's this going to affect their book of business. And we were going to breakout rooms and everything. Well, I just sat there and kept my mouth shut because I'm thinking, I'm not worried, because I represent investors, and investors will always find a way. Like, I don't care what market it is, an investor will always find a way. And that's what I'm seeing right now. Some of it's working and some of it's not. But the creative side of real estate investing is booming. And it is, by creative, I mean financing, like subject twos, seller wraps, seller financing. That is just absolutely on fire right now. It's complicated. I mean, putting together a sub 2 with a wrap and then, a second position, hard money, private money type thing, that's a complicated deal. The money's the same for me or a title, but if that's where the deals are, that's where the deals are. So that's what I'm seeing in the investment space. I'm seeing a lot of acquiring lots for development. It's just right now it's cheaper to build than it is to, buy construction already done. So I'm seeing a lot of that. But at the same time, lots are the most fraudulent transaction a title company can insure at the moment. So you really have to be careful where you're closing those lots. I mean, just in the last 2 years, the checks and balances that I have put in place to protect my lot investors, it takes longer. I mean, I'm not going to tell people I can close them in 10 days because the fraud protections I have in place are they're significant. He probably has purchased 200 lots in the last year. I just told him no. I mean, the money was in my account. Like, I could have funded it. I just said no. But that's a sophisticated investor who understood I'm not killing the deal. I'm protecting your money.
And what are you seeing? Maybe we'll just sidestep for a second here. That certainly wasn't on my thought process today to talk about fraud in buying lots, but let's talk about that. What are you seeing? What does that mean from a fraud standpoint, and what's driving that behavior right now?
I think let's just say the fraudster, they are seeing a lot of the newbie investors in the market. It didn't used to be this way. Listen, there's always been newbie investors. I don't think it has ever been so prevalent with newbie investors. I love newbie investors. I coach them. I love them. But everyone's looking for a way to make a dollar and, fight inflation and get ahead. And I mean, we're all broke. So everybody's trying to get into investment real estate. It's always been thought of as this way to make quick money. It's a hard way to make a living. So lots are the easiest way to do that because they're cheap. And for a fraudster, it's easy because typically, always, it's an absentee owner. No one's, it's not like trying to steal my house. I'm there every day. A fraudster, some people buy those lots and they never see them again for 20 years. So they're not checking anything. They're not checking the deeds to see if anything's happened. So I think that's why they're being targeted so much. And the way that they're being targeted is just seller impersonation, falsification of passports, driver's licenses, stolen notaries, things like that.
Wow. Well, it's a shame, but that's probably something we've never talked about on this show, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it does happen, and
AI has actually come in and helped fraudsters. They're impersonating people's voices. They steal your voice from voicemail, and then they use AI to make me think I'm talking to that person.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, as the world gets more sophisticated, so do the thieves. And
they do, but that's part of it. You got to find your vendors who are really experienced in your niche, because while you may do 10 deals a year, I do 10 of those a day. So I just have a larger sample size to draw from to recognize it.
Wow. What else are you seeing going back to the investment side? You talked a little bit about, maybe kind of this entry point in newbie investors. Do you attribute, I think I heard you say, it's get rich quick, and I couldn't agree more with you. Like, anyone that thinks real estate is get rich quick is watching the wrong TikTok videos. Right. Because I've been doing this a long time, and it can be lucrative, and you can find good deals. And sometimes, I always say some days I just feel like the greatest investor on earth, and other days you just feel like a moron. True. How did I do that deal, or why didn't I do that? And
true.
It's amazing how that changes. But what do you think's driving the newbie investors? Do you think it is this social media get rich quick?
What's part of it? It looks, online, it looks sexy. Online, just flipping paper and, pad split. What a great idea they came up with, by the way. I was doing pad split 15 years ago in Tennessee across from the diesel college, but we called it renting to diesel college students. Now it's this sexy pad split thing. Even transactional lending has been repackaged to be called gator funding. It's just, it's very social media driven, I think. And it looks way cooler than it is. Not saying it's not, if you know what you're doing, you're going to make a living at it. It's hard work, though. I said this I think I said it at the event that you were at, and I say it all the time. Real estate is one of those things where it's one of the only things that I have seen that the amount of time that you put into it is directly proportional to the amount of money that you make. So if you see somebody making a whole bunch of money in real estate, you better believe they are working 12, 16 hours a day.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of hard work. People always want the passive real estate. There's no such thing. The most passive thing I would say that I've ever done probably is like private money lending. That's probably the closest to passive that I've ever done personally. That would be it. And that's really popular now as well because money's hard to get.
Yeah, I appreciate your sentiment on passive investing, and I understand the, labeling of it, but nobody should be investing passively. You're basically hiring someone else to manage your money for you, which is not a bad thing, but that's still work too. There's no guarantees in any of that. And so, what you're trading for, finding deals, you should be trading for due diligence and understanding, whether or not you're in the right deals and in the right market. So it's an interesting real estate market. It's taken off, and COVID, I think, gave a lot of people the work from home, and a lot of people had extra time on their hands, and they've been using that hands to, in a good way, to figure out, how to build that side hustle, if you will. But this is certainly not for the faint of hearts. And, just as quickly as you can make money on a deal, you can lose twice as much really fast.
Not every deal is going to be a slam dunk. If you stay in the business long enough, you're going to lose. I've lost hugely. It's just a numbers game. You're going to lose one.
Yep.
There's just things that you can't predict. I mean, look at insurance right now, hazard insurance. There were slam dunk deals that are, we're talking, $8,000 a week. Those things were cash flowing. They're not even making money anymore because of insurance. No one can predict that.
Yeah. Rising rates and rising insurance, and, the inflationary measures that a lot of people think that real estate, doesn't, you buy it and this is what you bought it for, but there's management costs, carrying costs, ownership costs. And yeah, you're right. Any real estate that I've owned is through the roof across the board on every front, whether it be insurance, taxes, maintenance. It's, ironically enough, I had someone, it was at my primary residence. I was doing something out back at my pool, and I said to the guy, I don't know what, is that probably a couple $100, and we can knock that out. And he goes, no one will show up for under $500 anymore.
That's true.
And I've done a ton of, real estate where
good luck with $500.
$200. Like, I know there's always people that'll come out, and it was a simple project, but he's like dead serious. Like, no one's going to come out for under $500 anymore.
I cannot even get someone in my personal residence. So not an investment property where I'm being cheap. In my personal residence, I need new kitchen counters. Can't get anybody to do it. I'm not picking out cheap ones, but that's not a big enough deal for them to replace just my kitchen counters. I cannot get anybody out there to do it.
Yep. Now the inflationary market is one that, we're not out of the woods on that. Maybe we'll kind of punt this to the second half of the show, and we'll take a break here. But what's interesting about, it's really a double-edged sword on the real estate for investors, because, this higher for longer interest rates is a byproduct of sticky inflation. And so we're paying for it on both ends, which is, we're going to pay more to keep these properties. Oh, and by the way, these refi options and things where we can get into a lower rate, they're getting farther down the road. And so that's certainly going to cause some muddy waters in the real estate market as we approach, the next 6 to 24 months.
Yeah, we already thought that we would be seeing little quarter drops by now that just aren't coming to fruition.
Yeah. And with what's, continuing to come out from a reporting standpoint, there's no guarantees that they're even on the short-term horizon. So hold that thought on that. Let's maybe start after our quirky questions right on that. But we are going to throw you on the hot seat, Hope. And as we do with all of our guests, so we're not singling you out. Thank you, Ms. Amy. As always, if you have quirky questions to submit, send them to allaboutalts@newviewtrust.com. Always my favorite part.
Do you really just reach into a bag and grab them out?
No, I've got Amy brings 3 envelopes. And so this is very official, Hope. I do not even look at these because
I wish I had known this. I would submit my own questions.
So, all right, here we go. Oh, this is an interesting one to ask an attorney. If you're writing a letter, handwritten or typed?
Typed, only because you couldn't read my handwriting.
Okay. So not a legal precedent, just
Unless
penmanship.
it's to get a deal, and then I'll handwrite it so it looks more personal.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
what's the most unusual place you've ever been to?
Listen, I grew up on a farm in Mississippi, so there's a lot of unusual places that I've been to. Okay, this is going to sound weird. My brother is an oil and gas attorney. And so I went with him to go meet some clients in the bayou of Louisiana where they do not speak English. I don't even think they speak Creole. I don't know what they speak. That's the weirdest place I've ever been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm assuming the deal got done. No one understood the term.
I couldn't tell you to save my life. I couldn't understand it. We had an interpreter. I couldn't tell you what was said.
That's too funny.
Idea. In Louisiana, I needed an interpreter. It was cool.
That, it is amazing, just the diversity here, just in the United States. And I think people don't travel enough and visit enough places. I have to say, not that these questions for me, but the one that comes to mind for me was we have a trust company is in South Dakota. And so I've got to go up there for board meetings. And so one of the times we were kind of in the middle of nowhere and we were driving and someone said, "Oh, do you want to stop at the Corn Palace?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I don't know what that is." And it was actually our attorney. And he said, "Yeah, there's a corn palace." And sure enough, in South Dakota, there is a palace made of corn. It's a very interesting place. I don't know that I would visit it again, but I suppose I checked off a very box. So whenever that unusual question pops up for me, yeah. I have a built-in answer.
When someone says corn palace, you don't ask questions. You just go, "Sure."
Yeah.
You go, "I'm game."
I didn't want to be offensive. So, all right, question number 3.
Okay.
If you were going to be labeled as a candy, which candy would you be?
A goober. Those chocolate covered peanuts. That would probably be. I'm a major dork. Yeah.
All right, a goober it is. Well, we will refrain from using that term.
That one's gonna stick.
You may have set yourself up, Hope. Be very careful. Everybody listening that knows you is probably going to text you when this airs and
what a goober.
Immediately change the name in their phone.
Hashtag for all my posts now. That's fine.
All right. Well, at least that one you put out there on your own. I am not guilty of creating that nickname for you or future nickname, but good luck with it. I think it'll do well. So let's pick up. Thank you for indulging those, and I always want to thank the listeners. I genuinely love that, and you just never know what the heck you're going to get in there. Who knows? You I don't think whenever someone submitted that, they thought they may be creating a new nickname for someone. So they've really pushed in the envelope, literally and figuratively, on these quirky questions.
That was good.
All right, let's talk about, the maybe these muddy waters we kind of chatted about. You've got sticky inflation, right? We all thought there was going to be a drop already. We didn't see that because inflation overshot, right? Or the inflation report. What do you think that means for us as forget about real estate as a whole? Let's just core on real estate investors. What does that mean? And what are some of the things that you as an individual investor kind of doing to be prepared for maybe what lies ahead?
I am being super conservative with my numbers. And whereas I might consider a deal in an area that I'm not necessarily familiar with, and so I have to rely on someone else to sort of walk me through that and give me some advice, I won't do it anymore because I know really, really smart people and people that I super trust, but I'm not willing to risk it on someone else's expertise. Not because I know everything. I just, I'm a mom. I got 2 kids. If something goes wrong, I just can't spare it, I don't think. So I've become much more conservative and narrow-minded. I'm not against all the creative stuff. I haven't found a deal I would 100% buy one, though. So I'm not against the creative financing type thing. I don't care for the DSCR type stuff. I don't really care for that, and I don't care for the short term. I think I'm just sticking to the bread and butter, what we've all always known for a long time that works. Because in the end, no matter what, I can make a long-term rental work. All of the other stuff, I feel like we're already seeing how it's being affected by the market. So that's what I'm doing. I'm being way more conservative. I'm sticking with what I really know, and that will always, always work. And even, the more experienced investors, the seasoned investors that I talk to are doing the same. We've all kind of pulled back. We haven't stopped investing, but we've pulled back on what we're willing to look at. I don't have a ton of experience in development, but if I did, I would be going that route. I would be doing the build to rent type thing. I have a few clients that are doing it, and I would buy one of their products. I think that's really attractive. And then you can't just look at that professionally, though. You have to also look at it personally right now. It's, investors, we all have homes too, and we all make money somehow, and we're all being squeezed at home. I mean, I hear it from my clients a lot. It's not just that deals are tight, it's tight at home too. So I think that is causing people to really reassess what they're willing to buy. And the retail market is, I personally think, crystal ball, I think the retail market is going to have an effect on the investor market, because you're going to have uneducated buyers representing themselves. And whereas people used to balk at investors making offers on retail deals, I think it's going to open the door to agents being more accepting to an investor making a deal. I would rather do a deal with an investor than a forever home buyer who's never bought a house by themselves before. I'd 100% do that. And agents are going to be starving, and investors have the money to buy their deals.
Yeah, what an interesting perspective. I think we're seeing a lot of that, which is the buy box is shrinking. In the past, you felt like you could start to try a few different things, and today, a little more tried and true. It's an interesting perspective as well. The reference Hope made. For those that don't know, go back and take a look at a previous episode we did, or just a quick Google search. But there was a NAR, National Association of Realtor Settlement, that really changes the way that commissions are paid across the board. And so historically, sellers paid the commission, but they paid a buyer's agent fee, and buyers could get represented at no cost. That's pretty much gone. It's not into effect yet, but it's imminent. In the coming months. And so if you're a buyer and you can't afford an agent, you've got to do this alone. And I think, what Hope's highlighting, and I couldn't agree more, is, if you're a buyer today and you're unrepresented, a seller probably doesn't want to negotiate a commission with you to have to deal with the craziness of a transaction, when they could go to an experienced investor and take maybe a little bit of haircut on the price, but know that the deal is going to see the finish line. So, I've talked a lot about this with a lot of different groups, and that's the first time I've actually heard that take. There's always been a lot of talk about what does it mean to buyers, what does it mean, et cetera. But it does open up, I think, a big door, and I think you're spot on, for individual real estate investors to really represent themselves and reduce the commission costs, but being able to still secure property in the retail market. So very, very, very interesting take.
We've always made offers without commissions. That's how we've always made offers. Like,
Right.
Here's a cash offer, and let me save you in commissions. And that's why my deal is the best. That hasn't been an attractive sale until here lately. And now it's extremely attractive, because all you hear now is brokerages talking about how sellers can package concessions to help buyers. Well, what if you didn't have to do that? What if you just didn't have to worry about concessions with my offer? So I think the smart investors will find a way to leverage this for their benefit.
Absolutely. And that has been the market. I mean, we've been on a pretty strong bull run in real estate for so long. You've still had to change what you bought and how you bought it and why you bought it. Some strategies, long-term buy and hold, will always kind of look the same, but the approach to finding deals, the approach to financing, the strategy to holding maintenance, those things you've got to evolve. And real estate's not a learn it today and you're good. It's learn it today and then relearn it tomorrow. And with all that's coming down in the pipeline, ahead of us, between interest rates and inflation and the NAR settlement, it'll be an interesting market for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I draft documents for brokerages, for whatever addendum or special document they need, I always tell them, this is a living, breathing document. I do not give you this and you hold on to it for the next 2 years. Every time you learn something, we're adding it to the document. No one can anticipate everything that's going to happen in a deal. It's living, breathing documents. Once a year we meet, we change things, because the market necessitates a pivot. I think we're going to start hearing the word pivot. Remember how much we heard pivot? I think I think we're going to start hearing that word again. Hopefully we do.
It's a good word. I mean, if used correctly and not overused, it does encapsulate exactly what we're doing. And it is a pivot. And, it's been a weird market. And it's not just real estate. I mean, you could look at all of the different asset classes that people are participating in. I mean, like, let's face it, the fact that when COVID came down, the fact that that didn't cause a severe depression is still to this day, I can't figure out. They brought it brought the economy to a screeching halt. And yet every single asset class, stocks, real estate, has done nothing but soared through that. And then right, in this case, the government jacks up interest rates to battle inflation. And everyone said that's a death blow. Real estate will be at its deathbed in the next 6 months. And here we are, a year to a year and a half later. Not to say that it hasn't faced challenges, but it has not done what people expected. So yeah, you just never know. The resiliency of the investment market has been unbelievable across all fronts.
Investors will always find a way. Always.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
let's talk
they're some
about.
of the most brilliant clients I have. I'm always like, how did you what? Like, that's a great idea. Yeah.
They are, and they're out in front. What sounds like a good deal today. There was someone that figured this out 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, well before anyone else touched it. Let's talk about the title world. So you're own a title company, right? 6 locations throughout Florida. So you've got some geographic diversity. What are you seeing? What's different in title today? What are some of the things that people need to be really aware of through the process as it relates to title?
I think there's a shift. I hope there's a shift. During COVID, I think we tried to automate and as much as we could. Of every business did. We tried to automate as much as we possibly could, and we relied on technology a lot. And I think in doing that, we kind of lost relationships. We distanced ourselves physically and we distanced ourselves transactionally by relying on technology and automation. And I think that has hurt the title industry. I think we have to get back to our relationships and, in person, talking to your clients. They come to the closing table and we create this experience. That is what I am hoping is shifting back. Now, at the same time, there are companies being created with these huge, massive money raises that are creating title companies that are purely tech based. I've represented hedge funds and I've closed one deal and it was 118 homes. It was a ton. It was the biggest deal in the state of Florida 2 years ago. I closed it and I beat out those big title companies. But the reason that I beat them out is because it's like, guys, you're buying stuff in like Pasco County. Do you have any idea how long it takes to get a permit closed in Pasco County? Like, no, you do not. So what are you going to do when you're dealing with nothing but automations and you don't know the person to call in Pasco County? Your deal's dead is what's going to happen. You're not going to close on time. So I think as hard as we want to trend towards text and automation, I don't think that the entire real estate segment is ready. The investor is ready because we're all getting pretty savvy, but the municipalities and lenders, servicers, they're not there. Recording offices, they're not there. So I just don't think it's time yet. From the title world, I think we're moving back towards personal relationships. Even though I think we're going to dabble in there, we're all going to learn our lesson the hard way. And you're going to need somebody to call, Nancy at Pasco and wonder how you can get that permit closed. So I think that's what's happening in the title world at the moment. That, and we kind of touched on fraud, which I don't know why. I think it's COVID. I think it's AI. I think it's people are hurting, and it's an easy target for some fraud. Fraud's just rampant.
Well, and I love kind of this intersection that the world's in. COVID really did push the world forward.
It did.
Certainly, it was pushed the world backwards in a lot of ways too, and it was a pandemic for a reason, right? There's a lot of challenges that we all faced, but our industry too, being on the financial services side, we're in a similar place, I think, and our worlds intersect all the time, Hope. But if you think about the world that we're occupying, we want transactional efficiency, we want speed, we want digitization.
Mhm.
But I think what we've all kind of started to realize is those are great, but they do come at a cost. And so, I want to be able to DocuSign because I don't want to have to
100%.
print and I don't want to have to. So we can have that digitization to create transactional efficiency. But guess what? There's a point where I also want to pick up the phone and I also have questions and I also need a live body on the other end. And,
Mhm.
our business is no different. We are taking as much as we've invested, millions of dollars in digitization, which we utilize all the time, genuine all the time. We get more calls today and you would think that we'd get less. And so what I think we're seeing,
That's
and
true.
I think you
Yeah.
really kind of pulled this together, is we're just seeing people really accept that, hey, digitization technology serves its place, its function, and we want it. I don't want to do business without it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't want to be so exclusively tied to technology and digitization that, yeah, and these are deals. There's a lot of moving parts. And for a lot of people, this is the biggest transaction they'll ever close is a piece of real
Right.
estate. That's a lot to ask someone to do behind, a web browser.
It only works. I mean, I tried it, during COVID. I was like, listen, maybe I don't have to have as many personnel. Maybe I can, maybe I can automate some of this. From a bottom line perspective during COVID, that was very attractive to me. What I learned though, it only works on very straightforward cookie cutter deals. And I don't live in that world. I don't live in straightforward cookie cutter. I mean, I'm the one who, when stuff goes sideways, I'm who you call. So, how is automation and purely tech going to fix the fact that your seller has disappeared 2 hours before closing? It's not.
Yep.
So, how is it going to fix the fact that someone blew their financing contingency period? It's not. So it's just, I just don't see how that's going to happen. Maybe I'll be labeled a dinosaur in 5 years. I don't know. Maybe this won't age well. But I just think in the investor world, we're just a little too complicated with our deals. They're sticky.
Yep.
They're a little messy to just automate.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think, and I don't know that that's a archaic way of thinking. I think it's a pragmatic way, which is, you know, we understand the world needs and wants, but at the same time, you can't put everything in that same box. And
Mhm.
I think technology is filling gaps without question. I mean, look at the things we do, today that 3 years ago we would have never done fully online. So
Yeah.
it serves its purpose, but yeah, it's not a one size fits all. And when you add a bunch of moving parts, it really does. It makes it really hard for, the title company can be completely digitized, but guess what? They've got to interface with this group and that group. And so
That's it.
uh,
Mhm.
it's quite a time. What are you seeing on the legal side? Let's talk current events. We talked about fraud and kind of tech and that personal touch on the title side. What are you seeing different in the legal side today?
It's hard to get into, especially in Florida. It's hard to get into the legal side without getting into politics, but I'm not going to. But it's hard to say. So I'm not saying I'm not getting into politics, but you cannot escape the fact that some major changes have happened in Florida based on the stroke of a pen, and it's something as simple as the way that we sign deeds has changed, all the way up to people from China can't buy real estate. So I mean, it has run the gamut in the last 12 months. I mean, it's been a lot to keep up with. I understand, the rationale behind all of it, but people are getting really creative with some of it. The whole how no matter what the property is zoned, as long as you're going to put some affordable housing in there, you can tell the municipalities, just sign my stuff and I'm ready to go. That's extremely attractive for developers. Find the nuances on how to make that work. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I hope it does. Lord knows we need affordable housing. And I think that was structured in a way that's very much a win-win. for people in Florida. But it's been from the legal side. You just can't not bring what's happened in politics into it this year, whether you like it or not. And all of it is based upon the fact that we are trying to solve this housing shortage issue. That's across the country. And I think we're going to see more legislation aimed at that. We're going to see more legislation aimed at what is packaged as and presented as helping the consumer. Whether or not it plays out in the long run, it actually does, will be interesting. But that's what I'm seeing. It's a lot of trying to fight the housing crisis and what is presented as trying to help the consumer. And everyone in real estate, I think, is trying to adapt to it.
Yeah, it's a very unprecedented time, and I say that, we, at the risk of contradicting my own comment, I mean, we've seen this in the past, where we've seen, challenges. But if I go back to 2005 and 6, where we had a housing crisis, that was sweeping the country just the same, right? Houses were going through the roof. Nobody could afford one. We didn't have this massive interest rate. We didn't have this inflation, so it's almost like it's the same, but it's different. And then you add political pressures, and I'm with you. I mean, not a fan of talking politics, but you can't pretend that politics don't shape a lot of these decisions. And we're sitting here in an election year, which is also
I'm really interested in
another, whole one. We've got a very interesting election ahead of us, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on. I don't think anyone's really pumped for that matchup.
How it's going to affect real estate. I mean, that's probably one of the things that I think about the most, as an investor, as a business owner, as an attorney. I mean, I think I got an article the other day from a friend. The FTC just banned non-competes. That's going to have a huge impact on businesses. Hedge funds, of course, banks, of course, but even on small businesses. I think about title marketers. I mean, mine don't have non-competes, but anytime that I've ever wanted to hire a marketer, they got non-compete. I thought to myself, because title is very competitive and cutthroat. I thought to myself, whoo, I was like, let the bloodbath begin. Like, it's going to be like musical chairs, where marketers land in real estate now.
Yeah.
But they're not tied to it. So it's things like that. It's every week that I see something. I've been in this business for 15 years, and I cannot remember the last time, every single time I turn around, there is a new law or a new case that comes around, and I'm just like, whew, like, where is this going to go? And the election is one of those as well. I'm really curious how that's going to affect the interest rate. I can see it swinging both ways as to how that would go. I can see them lowering it to make everybody feel good, and then to make everybody feel good going to an election year. And then I can see it skyrocketing because there's just stuff you can't control in the market at the moment. So it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot going on, and there's no doubt, legislation continues to, and I won't say, cause us to scratch heads. It's not scratch head because we agree or disagree. It's because it's another thing to think through. And what does this mean? And, some of these decisions are big, and I'm with you. The non-compete thing is massive. And, so many people will not even know that happen. But for those that work in any industry, that typically is very hard to move, and especially specialized industries, where you're hired and you train for 6, 12, 18 months, or you work in highly classified information like banking, where you have relationship management. It's quite it seems so small and trite, for the average consumer that reads it. But when you read that and you think this is going to have some major impact, whether it's good or bad, time will tell. But it will have some impact, and certainly elections always have impact, and I don't think this one will be any different. That's for sure.
Yeah, that FTC. People like, I hope you don't watch TV and you don't watch movies. Like, no, I lay in bed and I think about the FTC. Just said no more non-competes. That's what I think about for my spare time. That's it.
Now, Hope, be careful. You don't want to keep giving people ammunition for that goober comment. So you may want to misrepresent that you're binging Netflix all the time, and you don't even know what the FTC means.
Yeah, I'm clubbing. That's what I'm doing.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well,
with my kids. That's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much for taking the time to drop in. It's been good to catch up and
Yeah.
always good to see you. It's amazing just looking back 15 years ago and, kind of thinking about what that market looked like. And we were all just babies trying to figure it out. And here we are 15 years later, still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, on a podcast. They didn't exist back then.
That's right. That's right. Oh, what a long way we certainly have come. Well, Hope, we'll put all your contact info for RTR and for your law firm in the show notes. If you guys want to pick up the phone and reach out if you've got questions, quirky ones or legal ones or title ones, certainly don't hesitate to give Hope a call. But Hope, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Push
for
the
having
like,
me.
share, subscribe button. Keep growing the community of listeners on the podcast as we continue to educate. This was I think a great topic and one that I think a lot of people will benefit gravely from.
Good.
So good to have you.
Bye. Good seeing you. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope the information within this podcast has given you the tools that you need to find your way to financial independence. We would love to partner with you on this journey. Text ALTS, that's ALTS, to 407-708-1853 to learn more about how to get started today. Don't forget to follow us to make sure you don't miss a second of content, and we'll see you next week.